This is the regular monthly Board of Finance meeting for the town of Woodbridge, and today's date is June 19th. The first item on the agenda is public comments, and seeing no one in the audience, we'll move on to item 2, which is approval of the suspense list, which I believe we all have a copy of. And why don't you just, again, I know we beat a dead horse here, but why don't you just explain again what this is?
I think Pat was going to come.
Oh, Pat was going to come?
Yeah. So, can we
All right,
maybe
why don't
go
we,
to the next
move on
item
to
till she
your-
comes?
Move on to your report.
Yeah. All right. So we're almost at year end, and we have about $168,000 surplus for the year end, and that would leave our fund balance at just below 10%, possibly 10%, depending on some last minute adjustments in audit entries. So we could be at about 10%, which was a good figure. Tax revenue is about $85,000 surplus. Intergovernmental revenue has a surplus of about $150,000, mostly due to town road aid. Department revenues experienced a shortfall of $741,000, mostly due to golf revenues, as we've discussed earlier. We have seen some small dollars come in, a little less than $10,000 in some, mostly in golf bag storage and locker fees, which we collect. So we've collected some revenue there, and we're keeping an eye on their results for this year, as we have a potential, assuming it's a good year, to possibly get some fees from revenues from the golf operations.
It's a good year, that's for
Yeah,
sure.
so far the golf weather's been good, so there's a possibility there that we're hopeful for. Interest income is below $25,000. Some of our expenditures to highlight for you is the Country Club of Woodbridge, of course, surplus of $355,000. The center building has saved a lot of money this year in natural gas. That's about $28,000. Most of that savings is $28,000 is gas. Some of it's electric, but most of it's gas. Police department should be within budget this year, as they've had some overtime problems and shortfalls there, but some of the shortfalls due to some staffing issues have surpluses in other accounts, namely holiday pay and some education reimbursements and other things that are related to full-time wages. So, in addition to full-time wages, waste management will have a surplus of about $75,000 due to some reduced tonnage and some reduced fees that we had gotten for our solid waste.
Tony, don't we have to hit certain levels with them?
For solid waste?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a aggregate level.
So we're okay?
So we're okay. We're such a small player in that thing.
Okay.
There's been no penalties this year. But yes, we do. There's a minimum requirement. But as Bridgeport does well, and Fairfield does well, it sort of all depends on some of the other towns. Yeah. Employee benefits are $60,000 surplus there, mostly in healthcare. And the Woodbridge Board of Education, as of this report anyway, was a $43,000 surplus. One thing I do want to bring to your attention is the oil water separator. We're currently in the process of discussions with both our insurance company and the installers' insurance companies and the subs insurance company. There's actually 3 or 4 insurance companies involved, and so Jerry's helping to coordinate all that response, and we're hopeful for a positive outcome there. So we'll just stay tuned, I guess, until we have more information. It's currently in the middle in process.
It clearly, though, was improperly installed.
That's what we've been told by our engineer, licensed environmental professional, is that was improper installation. So
So somebody's going to be liable.
somebody is hopefully
And it ain't us.
right. that's our hope, right? It's someone else is liable and it's not us. We just have to work through the process, which could sometimes take a while. So,
In the meantime, is it being fixed?
well, that's where we're waiting so that everyone has their opportunity to see it and document it, and because like I said, there are 3 or 4 insurance companies involved. Once that happens, then we'll close it up and fix it.
How are the soil tests?
Oh, groundwater tested was clear.
Clear? Good.
So that, and there's a little bit at the soil, but it's right around the leak. So it's not really all that bad.
I guess the interesting point, from what I heard, is that we filed a claim with our insurance carrier.
Right.
They denied it,
Right.
but the Newfields got the same insurance.
Same insurance,
company,
right.
So.
And then there's Newfield Sub,
Right.
who also has an insurance carrier.
He's got a different one.
Right.
Ultimately, he's got that.
Right. Ultimately, right.
If he's bona fide and in business and ever, I don't know how he can deny a claim. Unless he's going to say he disagrees, but then he's got to.
Then they have to go. Everyone's got to go to court and prove it, right?
So are they bringing in their own professional?
Yeah. So that's sort of what part of the delay is. But we're hopeful that we can, as soon as we can, close it up and get it operational again.
Woodbridge Board of Ed monthly, I'm sure Sandy will cover that. And anything else, Tom?
No, that's it.
Just, I know we've talked. If you get a chance, take a ride down, look at that Public Works garage. It's phenomenal. And that's a good project.
Right.
It's going well, and really looks. I mean, it's still open and all, but it really looks. People probably can't wait for it to be finished and get in there. Alrighty, let's see. Funding request, just one, and it's only a line item transfer. So, it's a $5,000 line item transfer for a check-in program. I'll move acceptance of line item transfer 1314-29. It's for the registrars in the amount of $5,000. Just anything on that, Tone?
No, it's just that they need to, like to wait until the Secretary of State's office has a certified format and certified vendors for this process before they actually invest in some equipment. So that's sort of the holdup.
Okay.
But they'd like to be able to go ahead.
Right, oh,
once that
absolutely, yeah.
actually is-
Yeah, and they have it in their budget this year,
Yep.
so
Right.
I said, let's transfer to a capital account. It's, gonna be $5,000, and then you can, wait until,
Draw down.
yeah, draw down on that, exactly.
Any other questions? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And so that, barring any disasters in the last 11 days of the month,
There will be a
we'll
use
have
of
about
that.
14,000. So maybe we can use it for
Yeah,
something.
Actually, there will be a use for it.
There will be.
Yeah, we have. We are now, as you probably all know, there was a animal control officer was on leave. She is now back, and so as a result of that paid leave, we have some funding issues in animal control. It's a separate fund, as you all know, and the fund has a balance of a little over $30,000. So what I'll do for next meeting is put together a sort of an analysis of what has happened and where the funding, I suggest the funding comes from. Some of it can come from the fund balance, but not all of it. There may be some required.
Weren't we paying her though?
We were. But as a result, we had to pay someone else to help fill in.
I got you. Okay.
And there was some overtime involved,
Right.
So what's not a one-to-one? I mean, we don't need as much as we paid, but.
Okay. Alrighty. Next is approval of minutes. And this is for it was a special meeting only because we changed the date.
Correct.
So these are the minutes of the May 22nd meeting, and I will move acceptance of the minutes of May 22nd as presented.
Second.
Any corrections, adjustments, etc.? Very detailed, Karen. Thank you.
Not at all.
Different print too, huh?
Yeah, I have a different template.
It's
for
nice. I like that. Okay, hearing nothing. All those in favor? Aye. First Selectmen's Report. Ellen.
Thank you. First, I'd like to say that tonight concludes, I believe, my first year
That's right.
at a Board of Finance meeting, unless there's a special meeting between now and the end of the month. And I just want to thank you all so much for the wonderful work you do on the board and the collaborative attitude. It's been a pleasure working with you and being a member, although non-voting, of the board. So been a wonderful year working with you.
You actually are a voting member if you have to be.
Only a tie.
You have to be. So.
I'm prepared. I'm always
Right.
prepared.
It's happened I think it's happened twice in 25 years, so.
So a few other things I'd like to mention. I hope you've started seeing the signs that the library has organized a farmer's market for us here in Woodbridge, and I think that will be very popular with residents. It's the fourth Wednesday of the month through September. So look out for that. It'll be next week is the first one over here at the old firehouse. And it will be farmers in Woodbridge, Orange, and Bethany is the limitation right now. Also, the concert series sponsored by the rec department is starting. The first one is July 1st, and on July 1st that will be accompanied by our first Taste of Woodbridge. The different restaurants in town are going to have tables set up so people can try their various wares. It's a wonderful opportunity. I think it's good community building and also promoting the restaurants. We have new restaurants and we have a lot of good food happening. So that'll be terrific. And at one of the concerts also there'll be a medical fair. That's I think the third one in July. I'd like to remind everyone watching and everyone here that the Plan of Conservation and Development Survey is still open. And if you haven't participated and filled it out, I urge you to do it. You can go to our website and link right to the survey. And this is the opportunity for all town residents to participate in formulating the vision for the town for the next 10 years. So I think it will be at least until July 15th that the survey is open. So please participate. I have created an ad hoc energy task force to make recommendations to the Board of Selectmen about energy saving and clean energy programs that would benefit residents as well as the town. Lisa Connor is chairing the task force, and joining her are Laura Ferrante Fernandez and Dawn Coppell. I want to also reiterate, Tony mentioned that Karen Lombardi has returned as our animal control officer, and so far that's been going very well, and we think it'll bring new energy to the Animal Control Center, so we're very optimistic about that. I'd like to mention a few other things I've done since the last meeting. I met with Rob Klee, who's the Commissioner for the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection. He actually recently moved with his young family to Woodbridge, so we're delighted to have him here. And there are programs that we work on with the agency, so it's good for us to touch base with him. The Ordinance Committee has been active looking at two complex issues. One is how we handle the United Illuminating tree cutting program. They call it something else, but it's with respect to the storms, how we're going to control tree growth and tree management. So we've been working on that. And also a couple of issues have arisen about blasting and what the standards are for blasting in town. So we've been looking at that as well. The DOT was in town to talk about their plans for the Exit 59 area. It was a very well-attended meeting, and there's good communication between residents and DOT about that. On May 30th was the groundbreaking for the Pease Place Playground. Also a very happy event for the town. That's moving along well. And the Board of Selectmen have decided to purchase a brick on behalf of the town to thank Colleen and Klima and Terry Schatz for making the playground a reality. I think I mentioned before that I'm now an ex officio member of the Massaro Farm Board of Directors, and that also I think is working very well both for the town and the Massaro Farm Board. There's good communication. I think Tony's been more involved, and that should be a big plus for the farm as well as the town. And there's also now an ad hoc membership committee of which I'm part. There was quite a bit of confusion, I would say, at the annual meeting of Massaro Farm about who's a member and who can vote, and we're looking to get that sorted out. And finally, I hope you all know that the RFP for the Country Club of Woodbridge property was posted on June 6th. It's available on the website. We've tried to send it out to anyone who we think would be interested, but if you know anyone, please direct them to the website, or if you contact Tony or Betsy, we can send it out to them. Highlights. Thank you.
Okay, still don't see Pat, so we'll move on.
Yeah,
Right.
we can just do it if you want.
So liaison reports. I have two. One conventional, one not so conventional, but you're gonna have to wait for the not so conventional while I give you the conventional one. Amity, June 9th, we had a meeting, and everything is going well. They're going to come in well within their budget. As a matter of fact, it's probably going to be
Surplus?
over $600,000 of surplus, which begins the tug of war as to whether they want to spend it or we're going to get some of it back. So
Yeah.
it'll be a discussion. I mean, they do have some needs, and I think I explained to you their health insurance reserve is very low, and that's a scary situation because they are self-insured. So, but there will be I'm sure, a very long and drawn-out discussion.
At least to what, if they
Yeah,
keep
to
something to last year.
duplicate last year.
Right.
And again, I mean, Jack Levine did say that he believes it's even going to grow beyond that as he gets, Jack's very conservative.
Sure, you estimate conservatively.
So his surpluses are usually, they grow at the end of the year. So keep our fingers crossed. But everything else is going well. There's really nothing else we talked about the budget calendar, and the new superintendent seems to feel that he'd like to come before us and the other towns twice. One of our meetings to discuss, what he sees, the forecasts, et cetera, and then later in the year, usually in March or whatever, to explain his budget to us. So,
Seems wise.
yeah.
Yeah, good idea, yeah.
Just trying.
Yeah.
You got a full plate, I'm sure. So. Okay, now my unconventional liaison report. On Monday, this past Monday, I attended a rock and roll concert on the West Haven Green, and by a group known as Rock Bottom. And who did I meet there but Bob and Ellen Scalatar and Mr. and Mrs. Mike Nass.
We were in all the best places.
Right, we had the best seats. And you look at me and say, what is this guy talking about? Well, the star performer of Rock Bottom is Tony Genovese. So we had to go there to see Tony rock. And Tony rocks, he does. He plays bass guitar.
Yeah.
He sings. The guy is talented, I'll tell you. This is what he does to unwind, I guess. And
Yeah.
and what struck me is they play all the classic rock songs. They play Richie Valens, Little Richard, Elvis, Jerry Lee Lewis, and it struck me as I was watching them sing that Tony wasn't even born when these songs came out.
That's right.
And here he is singing his heart out up there, and so they're very entertaining. And
Thank you.
I would suggest you, if you can avail yourself, they're around. It's partywithrockbottom.com.
That's it.
As a matter of fact, they're appearing tomorrow night at the Mooring Restaurant in Guilford. I know some people are going,
Yep.
and but they're around. You can
Thank you,
see
Matt.
them on the Clinton Green, I think.
Yeah, I think Clinton Green, yeah.
So check it out. I mean, Tony's up there, of course. All the other guys have hats on, and Tony doesn't wear a hat.
I don't wear hats.
Not with that hair.
That's not
I
gonna
wonder if
happen.
those other guys were all maybe losing their hair, so that's why they were wearing hats. But we had a good time.
So we need to sign him up for
Yeah.
concerts on the Green Bridge, and he needs to have a little place on the town website so we can kind of track him. and-
Absolutely. I mean, there was. Unfortunately, it was last Friday night, which would have been nice.
Right.
But it rained.
Right.
So they moved it to Monday, which, let's see, who's going to go on Monday? So there was about 100 people there. And I think if you took away Tony's friends and family, there would have been about 6. I mean, his mother was there, his uncle was there, we were there, and so, but there still were people dancing. It was very
A few
entertaining.
people up front, yeah.
We had a good time, so.
Thank you, Matt.
Keep your Tony's, I had to see him in person, and I'll tell you, he didn't disappoint. Only thing he did disappoint me was he kept telling me how they do Billy Joel. And I had to leave a few minutes early, and they hadn't done it yet, and he told me right after I left.
Right after you left, it was towards the end. It's
They
like one
did
of the last
Billy
ones we
Joel,
do.
Next time I'll slip him a couple of bucks. See if we can maybe do it a little sooner in the
We'll
show.
Push it up in the set, yeah.
Yeah, move
We
it
could
up.
do that.
Move it up. Okay. Mike.
Fire Commission didn't meet on June 9th. The meeting was rescheduled, or is rescheduled for June 23rd. It's coming Monday.
Okay. I'm sure you'll hear all about the oil-water
Yes.
separator.
That was-
Karen.
Okay, there was no EMS, and I had a conflict, couldn't go to EMS services, but I can follow up. Last month, we reported that the senior social worker was leaving, and they hired a new
They did, yeah.
person was hired. Mary Lee Rara
Yep. Yep.
was hired. So, fully staffed. Looking forward to it.
Mr. Esposito.
Well, the police commission is meeting was quite a long one. And we had Charles W. Sherwood, was director of the South Central Criminal Justice Administration, speak about a study that's being done of the Woodbridge Police Department. Now, the study is will probably run over, it'll take about 7 month period to complete the study. And one of the things he discussed was, how do we analyze police departments today? And he said that the per capita, some of the officers per capita is out of date, no longer in use. Minimum staffing method is arbitrary, and the budget determinations, well, that's up to the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Finances, and the towns that determine if they say, okay, here's your budget, you got $500 spent for security, and that's it. It's the workload method that is what is used scientifically based today, and that's how they work today. And that method takes a period of time to do because it's interactive with the officers and the whole staff and the whole department. And they build this data over time. And though we may have historical data to use, it's not as good to use historical data as it is to use data going forward because of the interaction between department heads, the officers, and everybody else as you build this going forward. And then at the end of that point in time, they'll generate a report. And then in the report, it's not really to tell you how many officers you need or you don't need. What it is, it gives you a workload-based method which gives you something to determine on what does the town want to provide to their citizens for protection, and basically it's left up to them. Then the proposal comes to the town. So that's kind of the way the study is going to go forward. And they figure using, and what they want to do is create data as they move forward, and they think about 6 months to do this report. And the board and the board voted on it, and I believe that this thing is going to move forward, and they're going to get started on it. We still have 3 officers out on workman's compensation, and they're working on trying to resolve some of these issues as to bring them to closure. Okay, and they're working on that because that has been the number one reason, one of the main reasons why our overtime is what it is because you really have 3 officers out. So those 3 officers create overtime issues. I mean, when the storms come, okay, there's nothing we can do about that, but during the normal course of business, so they're working very hard to resolve that issue. The police department now is going to be the repository for the disposal of prescription drugs. So if you have prescription drugs that you have to get rid of, you can bring them to the police department and they will get rid of them. And apparently this is a statewide program that's going on. So.
But you have to bring the drugs too.
Yeah, they don't come and collect them, you bring them. You bring them to the police department.
I saw an article, I saw it, I guess.
And,
Oh, I'm sorry.
no.
Oh,
No, basically, those are the highlights of the meeting, and it was a very, very, it's one of the
it
best
had
meetings we've had in a long
something to
time.
do, and you probably can answer this, but I guess there was a bill before the governor that if a town puts somebody in the academy and pays for it, which is like $100,000, they have to stay with that department for a period of time. They can't, because what happens is, like East Haven has experienced this, they pay for this to get these guys, they come out and they go get a job somewhere else, and they were going to try and force them, which I think is fair, if you, but I guess the governor vetoed it, so, yeah, so.
Well, there's a high risk there. We train these officers, you send them to school, you pay for that, you train them, and that they can move on to somewhere else. That is a problem.
It happens,
It does happen.
With regard to the report, I understand wanting to collect prospective data. However, are there different staffing models that they can propose to us?
Yes,
Okay.
there would be.
They would
And
do that.
there's different staffing models that
Okay.
could be proposed, but ultimately the decision is the decision,
Sure,
our
of
decision.
course, right.
So they give you all the choices, and then basically we decide based on budget constraints, what is it we want to do, okay? And so,
And will they look at the administrative structure as well?
absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. And what they do is there's an interaction between the administrators and the people doing the report have this interaction with them as they're building this information. So they're involved with them at all different stages as they move through, which is very positive, very
That's
constructive.
great.
And so we asked how much it cost, and I guess the cost was zero, no doubt.
David?
Right?
It's
Go
my
ahead.
first outing.
Really? Came to us first.
Yep,
Welcome back.
Thank you.
We're really glad to have you.
Glad to have you back there.
good to be back, thanks.
Sandra.
Okay, the Woodbridge Library Commission met on Monday, June 9th, and the update with the elevator is not too promising, which is really unfortunate. I guess that they did replace the software, but it ended up not being compatible.
Right.
And therefore the elevator is still not working. They have asked to go back and check their monitoring system one more time, and the next step, if that doesn't work, is a complete electrical makeover, but there's no guarantee that that's going to work either. So the Library Commission feels that some other options need to be considered in terms of looking at, who really needs to go upstairs, how often. Maybe there can be a dumbwaiter that's installed in terms of moving books and other supplies up and down the stairs. Maybe a stair chair could be there for someone and be installed. That would be much less expensive than a new elevator.
One thing to keep in mind with this issue is that it has been accepted as an insurance claim.
It has been.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So we've actually gotten reimbursed on part of it already. So we
Okay.
have to sort of work with the insurance company also to see, what they're thinking in terms of.
This wasn't replaced when the library was rebuilt? 'Cause that's
It
not-
was, but it was a power surge that blew out
Right.
all the
All the circuitry.
So it's not like it's 50 years old.
No.
No, it's
No.
new.
No.
So that should be an insurance.
Yeah, it is. It's the power surge was an insurance claim that we filed and we received.
Well, so in other words, parts are available, et cetera, but it's just they can't, no.
Well, they rebuilt the circuit boards, but they're
But they
still
can't
not
figure, maybe
working.
they just can't figure out what's wrong.
Right,
Yeah. So it was an electrical problem of some kind.
right.
And
Right.
so,
Okay.
part of the, that's mainly the issue. It's going,
Right,
it seems to not want to go to the third floor.
right.
It's only recognizing it as two floors.
Wants to go to the second floor?
Right. Maybe it had a bad experience on the third floor.
Well,
Anyway, so that's to be continued
Right.
in terms of how that will get resolved. But the patrons of the library have been very patient, and Todd is willing to talk to anybody about it in terms of explaining what the issue is with them. So Todd also started an ebook development committee with Lion. There's still issues with price caps and the expense of ebooks, and they feel like they're actually losing library business, and they really want to figure out a way to increase the funding for more ebooks and more titles. So he's kind of taken it to, the library group that comprises Lion and not just doing it on an individual library basis. He did talk about the farmers market and also added that they're looking to get bakery goods. Someone actually makes their own wool in Woodbridge, and to have crafts and other story time type activities to attract people to the farmers market. So it's great that they're taking that initiative to make that happen. And he said there's actually 13 farms between Bethany, Woodbridge, and Orange. I didn't
Wow.
realize there were that many. Yep,
Yeah.
exactly. Todd also brought up about the finalizing the arrangement with Beecher about the language program sharing, and that Transparent Languages is the name of the software, and they're going to split the fee between Beecher and the library. And they offer ESL in 25 different languages, and I think there's 60 other languages that are there. That and you just need your library card, the barcode, to be able to access that, which is terrific. And I guess they are also pursuing the kind of one book, one community idea that will probably pick up in the fall as opposed to over the summertime. But the program partnering between Beecher and the summer students in terms of reading is going very well. And they want the children to check out 10 library books, and then they will have a ceremony in the fall for them. So there's a lot of good collaboration between Beecher and the library. Then, and if you could actually just pass those down and pass these around. This is actually from the Woodbridge Board of Ed Finance Committee meeting. And Al Pulo put together really a great summary, and there should be an extra copy there for you, Karen, of what has really happened over the year in terms of surpluses from particular line items where there were deficits in terms of they didn't anticipate enough money, what they came out to be, what are the committed recommendations that have been approved by the board with the remaining balance. And they have separated out regular education funds from special education funds, so you can see the two sources. So the net projected surplus for the regular education sources was about $241,000, of which committed spending, and again, that was spent for some computer equipment, instructional materials, technology, new window shades, etc. It's detailed here, leaving a balance of $35,776, again, from regular education funds. If you turn it over, you will see the special education funding, and there were some savings there from tuition and transportation. They did actually use portions of that to fund kitchen equipment and a further reduction to the capital request for technology, leaving a balance of about $7,700. So the total that they project will be available at the end of the fiscal year is $43,565. And the question was, well, what portion of this should be returned to the town and what shouldn't be? And I said, well, the town is counting on between $30,000 and $35,000. So that would be much appreciated. The remainder is something that they can actually speak with, the first selectman, Matt, Tony, about, and their board. But I thought this was really a very nice way to demonstrate what has happened financially to them over the year, and I think they will continue to do this in future budget years as well. They had planned on 5 kindergarten classes for next year. They need to already add another kindergarten class based on people who are moving into town and registrations for kindergarten. They will need another teaching assistant for that additional class. Again, they're not asking for more money, but just to basically share programmatically what's been going on.
Excuse me, so Sandy,
Yes.
that will be one class in addition to the number they had this year. So from 2 years ago, you're up 2 classes?
Yes,
Would that be right?
that is correct. And that is also in addition to what they had actually proposed in their budget. So they need to fund an additional classroom. So, things have started to turn around, and again, from the real estate market perspective, the homes are selling and they're being sold to families with young children. So we've kind of entered that cycle at this point. And Dr. Stella does a great job of really monitoring this and kind of staying in touch with the real estate agents to get an idea of what's coming down the pike. They think that this will be it, but you can't tell.
Right.
And then you have to look at the distribution each year in terms of how many classes do you need at which grade levels. And I think it's a good sign in terms of the health of the community, and bringing back kind of the diversity of more children. I don't think we will ever get to our, over 1,000 students at Beecher again, but it's nice to kind of see the number climbing and creating, again, a balance of young families with older residents. So, and also the committee wanted to commend the extended day program. They really have turned around the whole program. They were running a deficit towards the beginning of the year, and they've really changed how they have operated and adapted to fluctuating enrollments, and they're in the positive at this point, and really are a model for how other schools should address these types of issues. And the one other issue is that they've spent a lot of time and work with Amity to make that, the high school, kind of ready for their summer enrichment program, because they will be moving out of Beecher Road School so that they can begin the construction work. They do anticipate that there will be lower enrollment than there has been in the past, so that there may be some financial implications to that, but it isn't anything that the town would need to fund in any way. And that's it.
Just wanted to mention, before we vote on this suspense list, not to continue this on, but comparing our towns to, say, Bethany and Orange. I was speaking to the chairman of the Board of Finance in Bethany at the Amity meeting. I don't know if you know, but I guess their budget went down in defeat. They had a referendum, and their budget was defeated. And I said to him, so what are you going to do? He said, well, one thing we're going to do is pretty much eliminate our roads budget. He said, we're not going to have any money to do anything with the roads. And I said, oh, that's good. That's and again, as I said at the last meeting, we spend probably $1 million a year on roads. And one other thing I noticed, and it's been corrected, but if you take Dogwood Road, which eventually becomes Johnson Road from Route 34,
Right.
as you go through the orange portion, it's a mess. I mean, your cars go. And I remember saying, oh, I'm going to see how the minute you hit the Woodbridge line, you can literally see where the road was cut, and it's brand new paving. Well, Orange this week paved that road, finally. But again, I mean, in comparing the various towns, we stick to what we think is necessary, and keeping our roads in good shape and it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And as I said, Bethany is going to probably end up with nothing. So anyway, so we have before us. You guys all know what the suspense list is, right? These are old, uncollected personal property, motor vehicle, and real estate taxes.
Motor
that
vehicle supplement. I don't think this year there's any
no.
real estate, yeah.
Okay, it's all personal property.
Motor vehicle supplement.
Okay. And MDM Golf, huh? I didn't see that. Pretty big. Quite a bit. Forget that one. We have to remove them from our balance sheet so that we no longer show it as an asset of the town. But Pat and her department continue to try and collect them as best they can. So this is a total of $34,578.86, which again is going into suspense. So I will move that we approve the attached suspense list as presented by our tax collector, Pat Crisco.
Second.
Any questions on this? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. And with that, I'll consider a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
We'll have a good July 4th, and we'll see you all sometime in July.